We're entering a really supportive week as we approach the new moon in Capricorn. The new moon in Capricorn is happening on January the 18th, and though we'll only be discussing January 11th through to the 17th, we are ramping up in this energy, and a lot of the themes that we are experiencing this week are extremely aligned with what Luna herself will be feeling when she rebirths in Capricorn. We start off on Wednesday. Mercury in Capricorn is going to make an opposition to Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer is maybe heightening our emotions surrounding something that we really care about, a passion project, something that is in relation to what nurtures us, what makes us feel good and expansive. And it can be easy to get swept up in the current of this Cancerian, Jupiterian abundance of feeling and empathy and dreams. But with this opposition to Mercury and Capricorn, we are asked to plant our ideas into the earth, into the soil, and really evaluate what is realistic about what we're doing to get to that place or to receive that nurturance and what needs fine-tuning. Maybe you're receiving communications about what needs to change in order for what you're dreaming about to be sustainable, or what nurtures you, or what makes you feel good. Themes of the home and safety and family could really come into play here as well. So you may be having conversations with loved ones about necessary boundaries for everyone to feel in balance or in harmony, or what is a stable way of thinking about a certain system in the home life that is going to support further safety, emotional regulation, and healthy boundaries in communication as well. On Thursday the 15th, we have Venus in Capricorn making a sextile to Saturn in Pisces. We are encouraged to set and enforce very gentle boundaries in our relationships with friends, loved ones, a romantic partner. This can be a time where we really feel the fruits of consistency, building trust and building in a stronger dynamic with our connections to others. But this can also be an application to finances. So stable consistency and a slow but gentle approach towards investing in money, or even increasing our financial literacy, not being so hard on ourselves for not knowing all of the answers straight away, but allowing it to be a process, a journey. With Saturn, there's never any need to rush, and Venus really benefits from what's slow and takes its time, because it really allows for something strong to flourish and something even more beautiful to come afoot. So with this sextile, it's just a good moment to really ground into what is consistent and what is dependable and reliable in your relationships, not just to others, but with yourself, and allowing that to increase as well your sense of beauty and appreciation for life and your sense of abundance. Then Venus is going to make a trine to Uranus and Taurus. There might be this desire within you at this time to make necessary changes around what it is that sustains you. What is your foundation of the comforts that you have built in your life that you rely on and that make you feel supported or nourished? What is it that you take pleasure in? And are these things changing, or do they need to change for where you're headed? What we find pleasure and comfort in changes as we expand and grow in life. This trine to Uranus and Taurus feels like a disruption in the comforts that you used to hold, and a willingness to reset something here so that you can be aligned with what it is that you do find beauty and pleasure in. There might be an unexpected surprise or an unexpected level of support coming in to your life around these themes as well. So be receptive to that and see how you can work with the unexpected to create even more beauty and more self-trust. On Saturday the 17th, Venus in Capricorn will make a sextile to Neptune in Pisces, encouraging our sensitivity and our empathy in, again, matters dealing with relationships and beauty, self-love and abundance and finances and our comforts and what we find pleasure in. This feels like a transit that really reminds us that to be highly sensitive is to have a wellspring of understanding for the experience that others are having, because we are so attuned to our own sensitivity and our own emotional realms. And if you don't feel like you are actually that attuned to your sensitivity or your emotional realm, then this transit can support that greatly without leading you astray into fantasy. You know, you want to play in fantasy, but you don't want to live there, because when you live in fantasy, then it's really difficult for you to have a realistic assessment of how you're moving in the world, and having the capacity as well to take accountability in moments where maybe you need improvement or to attune your way of showing up or your way of speaking. So fantasy is great for creativity, but not for moving through in constant motion, because we are not etheric, primary based beings. We are mostly here in this dimension, but it's a weaving of both. This is also just genuinely a really creative influence. So whatever empathy or feelings of compassion or feelings of dreaminess that are coming your way, this can be a really beautiful aspect to create something with, not necessarily to profit off of or to base your worth on, but to simply create for the sake of creating. This can be a really beautiful transit for connecting with others and tuning to what the people in your life are experiencing outside of just your immediate relationship. Not for the sake of absorbing other people's realities and problems, but to connect on that deeper level, to gain greater understanding of why it is that they show up the way that they do in relationships, and how you show up as well, and to let that inform the journey that your dynamic is in. Now, away from relational interpretations for this transit, on a financial level, this could simply be you feeling a little bit more sentimental or connected to your wealth or your abundance or your financial journey, and wanting to really refine with intentionality how you're using your money, what your relationship to money is, and where it can get stronger or clearer. Then the Sun in Capricorn is going to make a sextile to Saturn in Pisces, which feels like having access to this level of self-discipline that is maybe really necessary at this time. I know that January is considered by many as the month of the new year, and so discipline is a huge theme for a lot of people, but we are also still in the dead of winter, and this is not a bad time to evaluate what your habits and your patterns are in regard to how you're living your life, and to your health, and to your body, and to really anything. Because when we can cultivate self-discipline in one area, it's really likely that it's going to ripple all throughout. How you do one thing is how you do everything, right? But with this sextile between the Sun and Saturn, it feels like a level of confidence that wants to come through that will help us persevere in whatever it is that we want to improve upon, or to simply enforce so that it lasts for a long time. Whether that is a relationship or is a new healthy habit, or maybe even just as simple as the way in which you move through the world. This transit can really come in and support you in whatever systems you want to implement in your life, whatever structures you know are necessary to uphold you as you move through the world in whatever energy it is that you want to embody for the rest of this winter season and leading up to the spring equinox. Venus is then going to enter Aquarius, and with Saturn still in Pisces ruling the Aquarius sector of our chart, there is still this desire to ensure that the structures and the systems in our life and whatever authority figures are in our life are under this light of compassion and care and otherworldliness. There is a very gentle quality here, and so with Venus going into Aquarius, its nature is a little bit more detached, but it's not uncaring and it's not callous. It is a detachment that is based on a level of compassion for the story at large, the collective at large, not getting so attached to one story or one person or one narrative, because you are taking into consideration something so much greater that your energy of compassion and sweetness and softness, just it must consider it. Venus here takes a lot of pleasure in exploring the edges of our consciousness. Where does our consciousness lie? and what are the edges of that, and what is just beyond that. And so Aquarius is a very curious sign. It's very leading edge, and I think Aquariuses have this natural capacity to channel the energy of genius. I'm not saying all Aquariuses are geniuses, and I'm not saying that other zodiac signs are not geniuses. I am saying that the nature of Aquarius is very finely attuned to the bridge that can connect to that energy, because it is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn rules boundaries and limits. And because Aquarius is information and communication, being an air sign, we want to explore what is beyond those boundaries, and we want to explore what is beyond those limits in a way that is constructive for the evolution and the growth and expansion, not just of ourselves, but of the world, of the collective, of consciousness itself. And so Venus delights in these themes now that she is an Aquarius. This might not be the most lovey-dovey influence, which I've always found very interesting, that Valentine's Day is in an Aquarius season. But maybe it's because we have such a Hollywood programmed perception of what love should be, and Venus in Aquarius and Aquarius as a whole reminds us that love is something to be shared with others, and to not hold so tightly onto one thing or person, because then it's suffocating. It's a little bit more weird, it's a little alien-like, but in a way that is exciting. And so maybe this could be a really good opportunity to create something different with somebody, to collaborate with a partner, with a friend, in a way that is exchanging ideas for something that you're creating that is just different and new. Maybe having a little bit more curiosity about different ways to work with money and with investing, and what that means for your future, and planning ahead a little bit, because again, Saturn rules Aquarius, and Saturn is interested in the long term. So Venus is here now, and that is going to carry us into the rest of January, beginning of February. And now we're going to talk about the Sun in Capricorn trining Uranus in Taurus. This trine can bestow us with a sense of, again, confidence to make changes to our life and to our habits that are necessary for our growth, and for us to be able to radiate our essence and radiate our light in a way that is up to date. We're not following old systems or old routines, but hoping to show up differently. We are curious about what the evolutionary process of our identity is in real time, as we shed old layers and rebirth ourselves in a way. Again, I believe that the new year starts in the spring, but the astrology is just really supportive right now of you really taking the time to say, okay, what is really going to make me feel like I am encouraging the growth and the changes that I want to see. You can also receive unexpected support or surprises from someone else or another source that will help you in these themes, but overall your identity is going through a renaissance, if you will. And we're always going through renaissances, but this moment in particular, with Venus having just entered Aquarius and this trine to Uranus in Taurus, we are down to try something weird and completely different, to just see what happens, especially because one of the most brilliant minds that we know of said to do the same thing over and over but expect a different result is insanity. I am a proponent for insanity at the right place and the right time, but when it comes to change and wanting to see results, you do have to change the way that you move and that you do things. And so this aspect, I think, can encourage us to bring about those changes and disrupt our comfort zone, and to go beyond our comfort zone and just see what lies there. Even if we're not fully ready to stay there, maybe we come right back, but then the next day we go back out and then back, and then before you know it, that is the new edge of where we exist. And then we consistently expand our aura, our energy field, our energetic horizon. Now, the new moon is going to happen on Sunday the 18th. So by the time that I release the next forecast, it's going to be right on the heels of that. So I just want to give you a really quick preview of what to expect for that new moon in Capricorn. It carries a lot of the energy that we've discussed already for this week. What needs to get done? when Luna is in Capricorn, there is this focus on getting business taken care of and not idling too much on the emotions of it all. That doesn't mean that Luna doesn't feel the emotions behind it. It means that Luna is interested in seeing, okay, so what can we start to get into motion so that this can go somewhere? And it's a really good lunation to begin the very practical but necessary steps to get a really big vision or dream off the ground. No matter how creative your dreams or your visions might be, there is very likely always logistical steps that need to get done for us to get there. And those are not always so fun to take care of, right? Like, what do you mean I have to go and renew my registration for my car so that I can do XYZ? Well, yeah, you have to go do that. Or, what do you mean that I have to figure out the logistics behind how to ship an order for this amazing, beautiful art piece that I just created? There's a balance to it. And so with this lunation, it can just be a good opportunity for you to devote to yourself that discipline and that consistency for what is necessary to keep that creative momentum going. And it's not always something that we want to do, but the more that we can prove to ourselves that we are reliable and that we will show up, we develop such an immense level of self-trust that is imperative for our creative process and our success in the future. So just a little bit of a sneak peek, but essentially this is a moment to channel big emotions towards constructive action. We're now going to pull a card to see what it is that we most need to know into this week and leading up to the new moon in Capricorn. We have the Seven of Coins, or the Seven of Pentacles. I love it when the cards that come through are literally a visual representation of everything that we've discussed, because it enforces, not only for me, that I've not missed any information that I wanted to share, but it just feels like an extra level of support. And so with the Seven of Coins, I see a person hovering over their garden, looking at their crop with almost like a gentle sort of expectation. And there is a lot that is being invested into a certain project or a certain dream right now. And there's a certain moment where you've done everything that you can do, and it's only a matter of time to allow it to come to fruition. So for as much as we can have this ambitious kind of energy to pour towards something, there is a balance that's necessary where we sort of sit back and watch and trust this collaboration that we're always in with the universe and with the unseen, to let that take momentum and let that take flight. We cannot control every aspect of our efforts. We can do what we can do, but then the second that we've done all that we can, we really do just have to practice that radical surrender. And it's not you never working on that thing again, and it's not you crossing your arms and saying, okay, I guess I'll just wait and see now. But it's this level of space that you are entering into to give yourself rest, to gather your energy after working so hard at something, so that you can, when you're done with that phase, return with more energy, more inspiration, more creativity to keep that project moving forward. This card can be interpreted a few different ways. I've always seen it as this person has just put in a tremendous amount of work, and now they're just gasping for air and looking at what they've done and kind of admiring it. But it can also be somebody who sees everything that has to get done in the path ahead and doesn't even know where to start. They have all of these dreams and hopes for what something could be, but they're not there yet, and they're maybe a little bit overwhelmed. This card can encourage you to just break something up into little pieces and don't try to swallow the project whole. Give yourself a realistic timeline for when something will really be birthed. Because if you are trying to do so many different things at once, you're not going to really accomplish anything, and it might discourage you even more. Give yourself realistic goals and objectives to work towards something. And at the end of the day, knowing that, yeah, of course the play isn't finished yet. Of course I'm not done making that piece of music yet. This is not a one day and done immediate gratification kind of thing that I'm building here. This is going to take time. And in the realm of manifesting something or dreaming something up, of course we don't want to base our beliefs about how long something should take based on like other people's experience. Just be realistic to the degree of like, yes, you know, this may not take like 5 or 10 years down the line, but I know realistically with my current schedule and my current knowledge base and where I'm at with this skill that it might take a month. And if it takes 2 months, that's okay. And give yourself permission at the beginning of each project as well to accept with gentleness if something isn't done by the time you want it to be, or if you're not where you want to be by a certain moment, because that's colonialism and white supremacy, this idea of like, you have to be done by a certain time, or you have to meet these expectations by a certain moment. It's like capitalist mentality that is ingrained into a lot of us because that's the world that we are being birthed into, and it's really hard to catch sometimes. But give yourself permission to say, if I'm not quite there yet, then clearly it's because there's still more for me to learn from this process. I'm meant to sit with this for a little bit longer. And for all I know, something else is being cooked up on the other side of this that I'm not aware of, and it's just not ready for me. And if I go any faster and try to rush things, then I might miss the thing that's going to happen for me down the line. And just having this radical trust, radical surrender, and radical acceptance for yourself and your creative process and your relationships and for life, because that helps us be so much more centered and aligned in how we move and who we are without compromising ourselves or our authenticity for the sake of some made up expectation that really you're the only one hovering over your head and no one else really faults you for it. There's a time and a place, of course. Use your discernment. This card can be one of 2 interpretations here. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, just pick one thing. Something simple that you know needs to get done eventually, doesn't require much thinking. Maybe it's purely logistical, and start there. Set yourself a day when you're off and say, by the end of this day, this task will either be X amount of time finished or fully finished. Or this card can represent you have put in the work. Now it's time for you to sit back, rest, recharge so that you can gain more insight and more inspiration and more ideas. I hope that made sense. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, talking a little bit more in depth about this Capricorn new moon. And until then, I am wishing you a week filled with magic and attunement and love. Cuídense.